Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into the weeds on one of American entertainment's most, let's say, paradoxical figures, Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy who, within maybe 10 years, wins an Oscar for writing, fronts a rock band, and, gets famous for wearing blood in a locket. It's quite a mix.
Exactly. Actor, filmmaker, musician, songwriter.
He's a true multi-hyphenate.
Hmm.
And when you dig into the sources, you see his personal life, which, okay, yes, it made headlines, but it also directly feeds these incredibly memorable characters he plays, often pretty malicious ones, too.
Right.
So our mission today is really to sift through all that, the career paths, the personal stuff, and get a sense of the complex artist behind that famous drawl and maybe the notorious image.
And that central paradox you mentioned is just so fascinating. Here's someone who very openly says he dislikes celebrity culture, tries to stay out of the limelight.
Actively avoids it, yeah.
Yet he maintains this critically acclaimed career for decades. It's like he's the ultimate Hollywood outsider who somehow keeps ending up center stage, especially now with prestige TV.
We're definitely going to track that whole journey,
Mm-hmm.
starting with, his beginnings in Arkansas, which were pretty tough, really humble.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll look at Sling Blade, that huge turning point where he basically created his own breakout moment.
Yeah, wrote himself into the game.
Exactly. And how that success kind of led to a decade of being typecast, culminating in Bad Santa, which was just like a cultural lightning rod.
Oh, yeah.
And importantly, we're to spend some real time on the specific details of his health, his diagnosed conditions, these severe phobias he has.
Which sound kind of quirky, but they're not just quirks, are they?
No, not at all. The sources suggest they're almost like blueprints for some of his most famous characters. Yeah, it's wild.
So what we want you, the listener, to get from this deep dive is a really solid, detailed understanding of what makes this guy tick. You'll know the career milestones, sure, but you'll also understand why, say, a fear of antique French furniture might actually inform his art.
Yeah, it connects in surprising ways.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really get the artist, you have to start where he started. Before the Oscars, the fame, the marriages, Billy Bob Thornton, born August 4th, 1955, Hot Springs, Arkansas. And right away, his upbringing hints at that tension we see later.
Totally. The family background is immediately interesting. His dad, William Raymond Thornton, Billy Ray, he was a high school history teacher, basketball coach, a real pillar of that Southern small-town life, structured discipline.
Right.
But then his mom, Virginia Roberta Faulkner, she was a self-proclaimed psychic.
Wow. Okay.
So you've got the grounded coach on one hand and maybe the ethereal, the slightly strange influence on the other.
Mm.
That mix of the practical and the peculiar seems like baked into him from the start.
And it wasn't like he grew up in one place. The family moved around a lot within Arkansas, Alpine, Malvern, Mount Holly. He was raised Methodist, went to Malvern High. But those early school years, they weren't easy.
No, the source material is clear. He really struggled academically. And it turns out it was because of dyslexia.
Ah.
But here's the thing. It wasn't properly diagnosed until he was much, much older. So imagine going through school, trying to learn, read, everything, with this constant confusing hurdle that nobody's named yet. That's got to build some frustration.
Absolutely. And on top of that, he almost went down a completely different path. He was actually a really good baseball player in high school.
Yeah, good enough to try out for the Kansas City Royals. A real shot.
Yeah.
An injury. Cut that dream short.
Yeah.
So no pro baseball career.
Man. So sports are out, school's a struggle. What happens then?
Well, he graduates high school in '73, does a very brief stint at Henderson State University, studied psychology for like 2 semesters, then drops out. And that's when the really tough jobs started. The sources mention him laying asphalt for the Arkansas State Transportation Department.
Laying asphalt in Arkansas. That's a world away from Hollywood. Gives you a sense of the grind.
Absolutely. It's the kind of hard physical labor that either grounds you or makes you really desperate for something else.
And he chose something else.
Yeah. Mid-'80s, he makes the big move to Los Angeles with Tom Epperson, his friend who became his writing partner. But, moving to L.A. doesn't magically pay the bills.
Right, the classic Hollywood struggle story.
Totally. He was doing those soul-crushing jobs just to survive while auditioning. Telemarketing, offshore wind farming, fast food management. I mean, these aren't just jobs. They're experiences that probably sharpen your eye for the absurd, maybe build up some cynicism.
Sure. And it was during this time, right, that the famous Billy Wilder story happened.
Yes. This anecdote feels absolutely pivotal. He's working as a waiter at some industry function, and he ends up serving Billy Wilder,
The Billy Wilder. Sunset Boulevards, Some Like It Hot.
the legend himself. And Thornton apparently gets up the nerve to talk to him, express his frustrations about not getting acting gigs.
Wow, imagine that conversation.
And Wilder, maybe seeing something in him or just being pragmatic, gives him this piece of advice that basically changes everything. He tells him, look, if they're not casting you, stop waiting for them. Write your own roles. Write your own material.
Create your own vehicle.
Exactly. That conversation, that advice, seems to be the spark. His failure to break through purely as an actor forced him to become a writer, a creator, and that ultimately turned out to be where his real power lay. And what's really striking is how quickly things started to shift once he took that advice, once he started writing from his own unique place.
Yeah.
I mean, his first credited role was actually playing a character named Billy Bob in Hunter's Blood, where he was also a stand-in. Super humble start.
Yeah, really paying his dues. And he did have those smaller but noticeable parts in the late 80s, early 90s in Decent Proposal. On Deadly Ground, he was the guy who wasn't Johnny Ringo in Tombstone.
Right, building a resume. But the big leap was co-writing One False Move in 1992, critically acclaimed thriller.
And he played the villain in it too, right?
He did, which showed right away he could write this dark, intense stuff and embody it. He was feeding both sides of his ambition, the writer and the actor.
That must have given him some stability because then he lands a regular gig on that sitcom Hearts of Fire.
Yeah, from 92 to 95.
Yeah.
Steady work. But you can feel everything was building towards him taking full control, becoming an auteur. And that moment, obviously, was Sling Blade in 1996.
Which is just such a singular achievement. He wrote it, directed it, starred in it, based on his own short film.
And the character Carl Childers, I mean, that performance is unforgettable.
Absolutely. The premise itself is intense. A man with intellectual disabilities released after killing his mother and her lover years ago. But how he portrayed Carl.
It's all in the specifics. That low, gravelly voice, the way he holds himself, that slight hunch. It's not showy acting. It's this quiet, coiled intensity.
Yeah.
You feel like Thornton poured all his own specific anxieties, maybe even that diagnosed OCD, into crafting Carl's mannerisms. He understood that character from the inside out.
And the film was just executed so perfectly. It got huge critical acclaim.
Huge. This was his big arrival, Oscar win for Best Adapted Screenplay, Writers Guild Award, Edgar Award. And on top of that, nominations for Best Actor at the Oscars and the Screen Actors Guild Awards.
Nominated for writing and acting for the same film he directed. That's rarefied air. He basically forced Hollywood to recognize him on his own terms.
Totally. And after Sling Blade, the doors flew open. He had this incredible run from about 1998 to 2004. Got another Oscar nomination right away, Best Supporting Actor for A Simple Plan.
Which is such a great, dark, twisty movie. Very Coen Brothers-esque.
Definitely. And he really cemented this screen persona. The media called him the tattooed, hirsute man's man.
Yeah.
Often playing these smart, cynical, maybe world-weary guys.
The range in that period is amazing, though. He's the James Carville-type political strategist in Primary Colors.
Hilarious in that.
He's in the blockbuster Armageddon. He does incredible work with the Coen brothers and The Man Who Wasn't There. And then Monsters Ball.
Two really nuanced, powerful performances back-to-back in 2001.
But he wasn't just doing heavy drama. He also popped up in the Coens' Intolerable Cruelty as this slick oil millionaire.
Right. And maybe the biggest surprise, playing the kind of sleazy, womanizing U.S. president love. Actually, in 2003, a huge global hit rom-com.
So he's showing all this versatility, but then comes the role that maybe defined him in the public eye more than any other and led to that typecasting you mentioned. We got to talk Bad Santa.
Oh, Bad Santa, 2003. It's iconic because he commits so fully to Willie Soak. It's dark, it's profane, it's hilarious, but he's genuinely awful, the ultimate anti-Christmas character.
And the stories around the filming, like him admitting he was actually drunk for some scenes.
Yeah, that just added to the legend. Like, he achieved peak miserable realism.
But that character, Willie Soak, was so strong, so specific, that it kind of stuck to him, right?
It really did. Thornton himself said that after Bad Santa, casting directors would just call him up whenever they needed, quote, an asshole. He noted how narrow the imagination in Hollywood can be sometimes. He created this incredibly successful, specific thing, and they wanted him to just keep doing it.
Which seems like exactly the kind of thing that would frustrate him, given his need for control.
Absolutely. And you see that frustration reflected in his directing career, or lack thereof, for a while.
Yeah.
He adapted Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses in 2000. Big, ambitious project.
Yeah, I remember that. Matt Damon, Penelope Cruz.
Right. But the experience turned sour. The studio, Miramax at the time, apparently forced him to cut over an hour from his preferred director's cut.
Ouch. Over an hour.
Yeah. And for someone like Thornton, who seems to need that artistic control, that was devastating. He felt his vision was totally compromised.
So much so that he basically swore off directing?
Pretty much. He said afterward that because of that experience, he'd probably never direct again. Now, he did eventually direct a couple more films, Daddy and Them, Jane Mansfield's Car. But that initial strong reaction tells you how deeply he resists having his creative vision messed with by the powers that be.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The movie typecasting, the frustration with studio interference, and then comes the rise of what people call peak TV.
Right, the golden age of television. And for an actor like Thornton, the long-form storytelling of TV offered this amazing new playground.
How so? How did it fit him?
Well, think about it. Feature films often require certain compression, maybe sanding off the rough edges for mass appeal. But these high-end cable and streaming shows, they allowed for deep dives into really complex, morally ambiguous characters over, 10, 12 hours a season. That's perfect for Thornton's brand of nuanced cynicism.
He had room to breathe, basically.
Exactly. And the first big splash in this new era was Fargo in 2014, the FX series based on the Coen brothers world.
Oh, man, he was incredible in that first season. Lorne Malvo.
Chilling. Just absolutely chilling. He plays this sociopathic hitman who drifts into this small Minnesota town and just unravels everything, particularly for Martin Freeman's character, Lester Nygaard.
Malvo wasn't like a typical villain. He seemed almost philosophical about the chaos he caused.
That's what made him terrifying. He wasn't really motivated by money or revenge. It seemed more like he was just curious, like he wanted to poke things and see what happened. Pure disruption delivered with this detached, almost amused intelligence. It was a masterclass.
And it totally revitalized his career in a way, right? Brought him back into the awards conversation.
Big time. Won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Miniseries. It reminded everyone just how potent he could be when given the right material. Showed that Edge hadn't dulled at all.
And right after Fargo, he jumps into another major TV role, this time as the lead in Goliath for Amazon.
Yeah, starting in 2016, he plays Billy McBride. And the setup is classic Thornton territory. A once brilliant, high-powered lawyer who's now totally washed up, alcoholic, working out of a motel.
The ultimate underdog lawyer trope, but with his specific flavor.
Exactly. He uses that screen persona perfectly. The
Right.
world weariness, the cynicism, but then these flashes of the old brilliance, the sharp legal mind underneath the booze and regret. It's an anti-hero arc, but grounded in his specific, kind of believable misery.
And the show really let that character develop over multiple seasons.
Yeah, it ran until 2021. It gave him the space to peel back the layers of McBride, explore his addictions, his past failures, while still letting him fight the good fight, so to speak. It was another sustained success for him on TV.
And another Golden Globe win, right? For Best Actor in a TV Drama.
Yep, his second Globe. It really cemented his place as a major player in this new television landscape. The industry clearly trusted him to carry these complex, long-running shows.
And he's still going strong. The sources mention he started a new show in 2024, Landman on Paramount+, still doing serious drama.
Seems like he's found a really good fit in television.
Looking back, it's quite a career arc. He got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame way back in 2004.
Yeah, that was during that post-Sling Blade, pre-Bad Santa peak.
But then you add the Emmys, the multiple Golden Globes across different eras. It shows real longevity, a sustained level of quality work, even as the industry changed around him. It's not just one flashpoint, it's consistency within his own very specific lane.
Definitely. He found a way to keep being Billy Bob Thornton, essentially, and make it work across decades. So if we're trying to, get the full picture of this guy, we absolutely have to talk about the music, because it's not just a side gig. It's not like, oh, another actor deciding to sing.
Right, it feels much more fundamental to him.
Exactly. It's like a whole separate parallel career.
Yeah.
And understanding his dedication to music actually gives you really important context for why he seems to dislike the Hollywood game so much, why he needs validation on his own terms.
And music came first for him, didn't it?
Way first. Back in the 70s, before LA, before acting was even really on the radar, he was the drummer in a blues rock band called Tres Hombres.
Tres Hombres, okay.
And they weren't just messing around. Apparently, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top called them the best little cover band in Texas. High praise.
Wow.
And Thornton still carries that identity physically. He literally has a tattoo of the band's name. It's part of who he is.
So he was a musician before he was an actor.
Yeah, and that musician part never went away. Even as his film career took off, he kept recording. He actually did an album with a South African band called Jack Hammer back in '86.
Huh. Didn't know that.
But then, when he hit big with Sling Blade and everything after, he launched a solo music career pretty much simultaneously. It felt like a statement like, don't just define me by the movies.
And what kind of music was he making solo?
It was mostly alternative country. He released 4 albums between 2001 and 2007 on Lost Highway Records albums like Private Radio, Hobo. The sound is very much him, often kind of melancholic, reflective, definitely rooted in that Southern storytelling vibe that gave us Sling Blade.
And he worked with some pretty respected names in that world.
Right? He did a song for a Warren Zevon tribute album. He covered Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire with the legendary Earl Scruggs. This wasn't just phoning it in. He was engaging with the genre seriously, collaborating with icons.
Okay, so he's got the solo stuff, and then he formed a band later on.
Right. In 2007, he formed the Boxmasters with J.D. Andrew. More of a rock sound. And they're still active. They tour a lot.
But it was the Boxmasters, wasn't it, that led to that infamous interview incident?
Oh, boy, yes. The 2009 CBC radio interview. This is like the perfect storm of his anti-celebrity stance clashing with media expectations.
Set the scene for us. What happened?
Okay, so the band is touring, promoting their music. They're scheduled to appear on this well-known Canadian radio show called Q, hosted by Jan Gomeshi at the time.
Right.
And here's the crucial bit. Thornton's team specifically told the producers beforehand, do not ask him about his movie career. He's here as a musician for the Boxmasters. He wanted the music judged on its own, separate from Billy Bob the movie star.
Okay, makes sense from his perspective, but...
But yeah. The host, probably just trying to give context for listeners who might only know him from films, mentions his acting career in the introduction.
And Thornton did not react well.
That's putting it mildly. He basically shut down. But in this really bizarre, passive-aggressive way, he became, like, persistently unintelligible, gave one-word answers, pretended not to understand simple questions, acted profoundly bored or confused.
It was incredibly awkward to listen to, just painful radio.
Totally. The tension was immense. And then he famously delivered that line, complaining that Canadian audiences were like mashed potatoes without the gravy.
Oof. That does not go over well.
No kidding. The interview went viral, huge backlash. People thought he was being incredibly rude and bizarre.
Yeah.
And shortly after, the rest of their Canadian tour was canceled. The official reason given was, like, band members having the flu.
But the timing was suspicious?
Very. It was this really public, strange meltdown, but you can kind of see the root of it. His intense need for his music to be taken seriously, completely separate from the Hollywood fame he often seems to resent. It was that internal contradiction, hating celebrity culture, but needing the media platform just exploding outwards.
Okay, let's pivot to look behind the curtain a bit more. Because for a guy who clearly dislikes the spotlight, his personal life has definitely drawn a lot of attention over the years, particularly his relationships.
Yeah, the marital history is complex. 6 marriages in total, 4 kids with 3 different women. It points to a certain, let's say, turbulence in his romantic life.
Walk us through it briefly.
Okay, first marriage, Melissa Lee Gatlin, back in '78, didn't last long. Then Tony Lawrence. Then he married Cinda Williams, the actress he actually cast in One False Move, his writing debut.
Ah, okay.
That ended. Then came his marriage to Pietra Dawn Cherniak, a former Playboy model, from '93 to '97. That one ended very publicly and contentiously, with accusations of abuse leveled against him. So that added a really difficult, dark layer to his public persona at the time.
Right, that was a tough period. And then, of course, the one that everyone remembers, the one that was pure tabloid gold, Angelina Jolie.
Absolutely. From 2000 to 2003, she was almost 20 years younger than him. Both of them were at peak fame levels. It was just a media magnet.
And they leaned into the eccentricity, didn't they? The whole blood vial.
Oh, yeah. That story dominated. The media reported they wore vials of each other's blood around their necks. It instantly cemented them as this, like, gothy, intense, maybe slightly weird Hollywood power couple.
He did clarify that later, though, right? It wasn't quite as gruesome as it sounded.
He did. He said they were actually small lockets, and each contained just a single drop of blood, like from a finger prick. Still eccentric, maybe, but definitely less vampire chic than the headlines made it seem. But the sensationalism took over.
That relationship also involved an adoption announcement, I recall.
Yes. They announced they were adopting a child from Cambodia together.
Yeah.
But they separated pretty soon after, in 2002, divorced in 2003, and ultimately, Jolie adopted her son, Maddox, as a single parent. So that chapter closed quite dramatically.
And after all that, he actually did get married again, despite saying he probably wouldn't.
Right, he'd said marriage doesn't work for him. But then in 2014, he quietly married Connie England, who works in makeup effects. They have a daughter together. It seems like a much more low-key, stable relationship, far from the paparazzi glare.
Okay, shifting gears from relationships to health, this also seems really key to understanding his intensity.
Definitely. The sources mentioned that back when he was struggling in L.A., he ended up in the hospital and got diagnosed with myocarditis.
A heart condition.
Yeah, a serious one. And it was thought to be brought on by his diet back then, the stress. A real wake-up call.
And how did he respond?
With typical Thornton intensity, it seems. He apparently completely overhauled his lifestyle. Now follows a strict vegan diet, avoids wheat and dairy. He calls himself extremely healthy. It shows that same dedication, that need for control, applying to his physical well-being.
Okay, but now, let's get to the really fascinating stuff. The quirks, the phobias. The sources mention OCD and dyslexia, which we touched on. But the specific phobias are just, wow.
Right. This is where you really see the connection between the man and the work. These aren't just little anxieties. They're powerful, specific psychological things he deals with.
Let's start with the antique furniture phobia. It's so specific.
It really is. He has this deep-seated fear. He says he gets genuinely creeped out by antique furniture, but not just any old stuff. Specifically, French Louis XIV style furniture.
Like the big, ornate, gold velvet stuff.
Exactly that. Those heavy, imposing gilded chairs and things. He finds them deeply unsettling.
And he claims he can tell real antiques from fakes.
Yeah. He said the imitations have a different vibe, not as much dust. It's like he has this almost supernatural sensitivity to the history, the weight of these objects.
Why Louis the Forsyth, though? What does that represent?
Well, think about it. It's the polar opposite of his Arkansas roots, right? It's old, incredibly opulent, aristocratic, maybe feels pretentious or decayed. It's everything his grounded, dusty Southern background isn't. It could represent a kind of historical baggage or phoniness that repels him.
And this isn't just a personal quirk he keeps private. He put it directly into Sling Blade.
Right into the script. Dwight Yoakam's character, the abusive Doyle Hargraves, shares that exact same phobia of antique furniture. Thornton literally wrote his own neurosis into his Oscar-winning screenplay.
That's incredible. What about the silverware phobia?
Another hyper-specific one, a fear of certain kinds of silverware, particularly heavy, real silver forks and knives. Again, notice the association with formality, wealth, maybe old traditions.
It's not just any spoon.
Nope. And again, he used it. His character in Monsters Ball, Hank Grotowski, famously insists on eating his ice cream with a plastic spoon, even though there's proper silverware available. It's a tiny detail, but it comes directly from Thornton's own life, his own anxieties. He uses these things as building blocks for character.
It's like his neuroses are his toolkit.
Pretty much. And just to round out the picture, he has these deep, unwavering passions to huge baseball fans, specifically the St. Louis Cardinals.
To the point where it's in his contracts.
Yep. Requires a TV with a satellite dish in his movie trailers so he doesn't miss Cardinals games. It's like this anchor, this piece of home and ritual he needs amidst the chaos of filming. It tells you something about his need for control and routine.
And finally, his take on faith.
Fits the persona. He says he's not traditionally religious, though he went to Methodist church growing up. He distrusts certainty. He's quoted as saying, "Anybody who says, 'I know what happens,' I don't believe them. That's kind of my religion." It's that agnostic, questioning viewpoint you see in so many of his characters. So, okay, when you pull all these threads together, what do you get? I mean, you really see an artist whose success seems directly linked to his ability to tap into his deepest, most specific anxieties and personal experience.
Yeah, the stuff that makes him tick, the neuroses, the phobias, that's the raw material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guy who hates old, heavy, gilded French furniture ends up being brilliant at playing these kind of dusty, dark, classic American figures. It's fascinating.
His whole career feels less like a climb up the traditional Hollywood ladder, which, he seems to despise anyway, and more like this path carved out of sheer creative necessity.
Right. His struggles gave his writing texture. His phobias became character traits, plot points even. He kind of reverse-engineered his success by creating roles that resonated with his own complex psychology, whether that's hating velvet chairs or having a cynical view of the world.
He's the ultimate anti-celebrity found a way to win Oscars while seemingly wanting to be left alone.
And that journey, from serving Billy Wilder to directing his own films and then hitting that wall with studio interference, it shows that constant battle for artistic control, Which maybe explains why he found such a good home in long-form TV later on.
Yeah, more room to execute his vision without those same kinds of compromises.
You could develop those intense, specific characters over time.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Think about this. Billy Bob Thornton actively dislikes old stuff, right? Finds antique furniture creepy, dusty, maybe representing an oppressive past. Yet, so much of his career is built on revisiting and embodying these classic, sometimes pretty worn-out American archetypes. The Western heavy, the cynical coach, the broken-down lawyer.
Yeah, characters that feel like they have some dust on them.
So here's a question. Is his creative process, his writing, his directing, his acting fundamentally an attempt to take those old, maybe dusty Hollywood stories and archetypes and polish them, adapt them, make them feel new and vital again? Is he trying to clean off the dust he dislikes in real life by reimagining these figures?
Like, could his own neurosis, that aversion to the old and decaying, actually be the engine driving him to constantly reinvent these classic American stories, making his biggest fear his most valuable creative tool? Something to chew on.